Casting with Ceri Jones.
Hi all, and welcome to this week's episode. Before I start, I want to mention as well that some of you are unaware that when you're listening to the podcasts, if you scroll down the page, you can see photographs, story notes, and links related to the podcasts. To add a bit of light and more information you can gain from them if you need to contact any of the clubs or the guests themselves, just scroll down and have a look. Unsure if this is the same with Spotify, mind. So, to see more info on the podcast, pop over to my site. And before we move on to this week's guest, I'd like to ask you to call into the online shop on my page, where I sell my signed prints and a selection of ghillie kettles, as it all helps to keep this channel going. So sit back and enjoy this week's episode. My guest this week has a fly fishing passion for wild trout in the remote, wild mountain lakes of Wales. He often walks hours to get to his locations, and has caught in over 50 waters, hidden away up in the hills, ranging from the South Wales valleys to the dramatic mountain ranges of Snowdonia. He enjoys nothing better than to fish traditional patterns, fishing the old method of cast and walk, something which I love myself. As well as chatting about fishing in Wales, he talks of his love for fly fishing for sea trout from the beach at Hoy at Orkney, Scotland. Welcome to my chat with Alan Parfitt.
Hello.
Hi Alan. It's only a few weeks now to start the season.
Yes.
Is there anywhere in particular you're going to head for?
Well, early in the season, Talabont is a cracking lake. It's got to be one of the best wild brown trout fisheries in Wales.
Yeah.
And, it opens on the 20th of March. What happens on the slins and the lakes, the fish come into the shallow water. So people go out and they cast them out into the deeps. And actually they should be fishing where they're standing,
Yeah.
And they do come in and there's some big fish about. And Talabont is brilliant for it because it's shallow at the top end and you can wade out a long way without it deepening.
Sure.
It's a big fish in Talabont as well.
I fished it a few times end of last year, and I done nothing big. I think, to be honest, they were warm days, and I didn't think. I think about 3 times I fished it, and I never had a take until about 9 o'clock at night. I had a few then.
Yeah. On the dusk, it can come alive. Well, many years ago, I was up there with a very good friend, Dave Parker, who's unfortunately passed away 2 years ago. They started dimpling, and I probably caught 50 fish.
Did you?
Yep. And Di did likewise. It was so good, we went back the following day.
Yeah.
And we did the same, catching them on tiny spider patterns, People complain about Talabont. They say, it's no good, there's no fish in there. It's alive with fish.
Yeah.
People don't know how to fish for them.
Yeah.
The best day, if you go in the daytime to Talabont, the best time is a dull day when it's a really good, strong westerly wind going.
Yeah.
I like to see white horses. Just you cast and walk with and you look for swallows. If you see swallows skimming the water, there's a hatch of flies,
Yeah.
and you can fish the surface layers. With any bushy fly. Kate McLaren is as good as any, or ordinary Invictas, things like that. Marathon Claret Marathon Claret is the must go-to fly in Wales.
Yeah.
It catches more fish for me and all other flies put together.
Is it?
If the weather is suitable.
Yeah.
If it's a bright day, the old adage, bright day, bright fly, is true. But if it's dark and somber, stick a fly with a claret in it, or golden olive is another colour they like, and it'll do the mischief, Brilliant fly. Yeah,
A
good old
claret is,
traditionals.
yeah, a claret is a good go-to fly for me, like a claret hopper or a claret buzzer.
Yeah,
Great flies.
absolutely. I
On
used to
top,
buy my claret seals there off Cliff Harvey over in Kilvanil, and he's quite a character, Cliff, and he was a great lover of Clydwen, as am I.
he,
I think he won the Welsh Championship on Clydwen. Cliff used to dye the seals, his own seals for to sell, Yeah, and I've still got a very small supply of it left. He would hold the claret up, and he said, it's got to look black. You can only see the claret in it, he said, when you hold it up to the light, And
yeah,
I think he's right, really, really dark claret it's got to be. And that's the only colour that when I tie a fly for the mountain lake, it's the only colour I'm absolutely insistent that I get right, is dark claret.
and confidence is everything, isn't it? I've had claret.
It's confidence,
Yeah, I've had claret seals fur and various other dubbing materials, and they're like a wine colour. And I've tied flies with them, and the confidence isn't the same. I've got. Do you know what I used to do? On 35mm film canisters. I used to put all my dubbing in these canisters, and I've got one there now, and there's only about 2 or 3 pinches left of this certain claret, which and I won't tie a fly with it now. I will keep it as a match because you can forget tones. You see so many things, and that's a match now to one which I had total faith with.
That's a very wise move. That is.
Once it's gone, it's
you
gone.
do forget, don't you? And I always use mature seals fur as well, so it's really spiky. I don't like this soft, fine dubbing you buy. It's got to be mature seals fur. It's really coarse. It's a bit of a nuisance to make a rope to tie in, but I think the more straggly the flies are, the better they work, to be honest.
What is your best fish in Talabont?
Couple of pounds, I expect.
Is there?
But there are bigger ones in there. Thing is, with the reservoirs, all the upland lakes, if you want a nice day's fishing, I put traditional flies on. I like to fish cast and walk, the old Welsh way.
Yeah.
It suits my personality. I don't like fishing deep. I get bored. I'm just a restless person, You've got to fish to suit your personality, haven't you? You fish the upland lakes to suit you. Because, you're there. We go fishing, not to catch fish. We want to catch fish, but we go there to enjoy ourselves. It's a pastime. We're not fishing. We don't need to catch fish for the pot. We're not starving. And so I believe you should fish the way you enjoy most. But if you want big fish on the reservoirs or the upland lakes, you have to think in terms of lures, woolly buggers and that sort of thing. Get down a couple of feet, and that's what I hooked that massive trout up on in the Reenogs a few years ago on a leech imitation. But I find it boring, so I fish I skim the surface of the water, with a point fly that just subsurface and a bob fly. I only fish 2 flies, 3 flies, not worth it, and the one on the surface, and to see the fish come up and take the top fly is great,
Yes, so, very visual, isn't it? It's good then.
It's very visual, yeah.
The thing is, when you're fishing these mountain lakes for wild brownies, they're not really cruising fish like rainbows, are they? So you've got to move.
Oh, no.
Instead of waiting for the fish to come to you, you've got to move and cover fresh water.
Well, I've taken people up to Gunnon. I don't know if you've ever been to fish Gunnon.
No, I never have.
I ought to take you up there.
Definitely.
It's part of the Ryder Angling Association. They've taken it. Clydwen used to be run by Welsh Water, and the Ellen Valley was run by the Ryder Angling Association.
That's right.
But Welsh Water have given it all over to Ryder now. Yeah. So Ryder anglers manage Clydwen. Well, there's 4 natural lakes come with Clydwen Reservoir. There's Gunnon, which is a big lake, about 50 acres. It's a completely natural lake. And then you've got the 2 Cerrig-Lloedion lakes, and you've got Carew. And you can fish all those on the same ticket. So, I've taken people up Gunnon, and I say to them, you've got to cast and walk. Cast and walk. What I tend to do is cast, and as I'm retrieving the line, I'm actually shuffling along the bank. So by the time I've retrieved the line, I've moved a yard.
Yeah.
Rather than cast, stand still, retrieve the line, then walk a yard or so, and then cast again. I'm actually moving between the cast.
Yeah.
And what I find as well, it tends to bring the line back in a curve.
Mm.
And I am convinced, I can't prove it, but I am convinced that if the fly comes back in a little bit of an arc, the fish take better than if it comes in at a straight line.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a bit like down and across in a river, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you fish across a river and you swing it down, there's a point, isn't it, where the fly starts to swing it, and just when it starts to straighten, it accelerates, I think.
Yeah, it does
and
go
bang,
faster.
And
yeah.
that's it works for trout. It certainly works for salmon, and I think it happens to the same extent on the lakes. If you can bring it back in a bit of an arc, I think you tend to get more takes. I might be wrong. It might be my imagination.
No, I think it definitely. And when it comes to my experience with trolling, once you're on that turn, a fish could follow and follow. As soon as the fish, your bait then changes its path, bang, they're on.
Yeah. So that's my style, and it's automatic now. I go on anywhere now. I just do it without thinking.
Yeah.
I can't stop it. I can't change my habit. I mean, I fish a lot with Ceri. Ceri
Thomas. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're the last of the Mohicans, I think, when it comes to mountain slim fishing. We just never meet anybody.
Yeah. You need to be fit, though, don't you?
Yeah, I think people just can't be bothered. I remember seeing a sign in Banff National Park in Canada, and it said, "Go 5 minutes away from the highway, and you'll lose 95% of the fishermen." They get out of their car, they go down to the river, and they start fishing. They won't even walk 5 minutes. No. And these days, a lot of the lakes in mid and North Wales, it's maybe a 2-hour hike up to them. People are just not prepared to do it. I just love being up there. We live in an overcrowded country, don't we?
Yeah.
Even Wales is. Yeah.
I went up to Elan Valley end of the year. I think it was August time. I went up, and you got to walk a minimum 100 yards. And it's all clumpy, moorland.
Yeah.
I ended up on my knees a couple of times because you just fall. It's so worth it when you get in there. And there was one section over the top by the inlet. There was no mobile phone signal either. And that was great, to be honest.
The best use we make of the mobile phone is when we get lost and we can't find the lake, so we use Google Earth to see.
Yeah.
We went up, Ceri was on holiday with his family up in North Wales, and I wanted to go to Anglesey. I do a lot of flower photography. I'm a bit of an wild orchid fanatic, and I was going up to Anglesey to photograph
all right.
narrow-leaf marsh orchids. And so we decided to meet up. And then there's a couple of lakes on the Cambrian Anglers Association. We decided to fish those.
Yeah.
So we got up there. We just went up in the mist and disappeared.
Did you?
And we couldn't see a thing. So we were looking for this particular lake, and the only way we found it was from our phones. Using satellite. Google Maps. That's right.
Yeah.
We're using that, and we found it. That's the big danger in the hills. Actually, is mist. It's not falling down or breaking legs. And most of the waves are so boggy and sodden. You fall down, you land in you have very soft landing. You get up in the mist up in some of those. You can get in, seriously lost if you don't know it.
So you're into your photography as well, then, are you?
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying about the orchid. I remember I was on a trip in Switzerland up by the Matterhorn on a press trip for the magazine. And we done the feature. I was there for 4 days. and we caught trout and char, and it's a great trip. And at the end, the last day, I said, there's one thing I want to do before I go home. So I asked the guy, can you show me where I can find and photograph Edelweiss?
Edelweiss, I was going to say Edelweiss. That's the one
I said, can you tell me where I can see Edelweiss? He said, it's not that easy to see because they almost hide themselves. So anyway, he was asking around these other locals then, and then we went for a bit of a hike up this mountain, and off the track then he was told near this rock to look. So I went up now, and it was almost vertical for about 30 yards. So I had my camera gear on my shoulder as well. And I just got up, and it was like a little ledge. And tucked underneath this ledge was these Edelweiss, right? And you could, and the view looking across the valley, and you could see the Matterhorn on one side, and there's Edelweiss there. And I thought, wow, I wasn't into flowers until I saw those. And it's like a furry buttercup, really.
Yeah, I know the plant,
Yeah.
I grow alpines at home. I mean, I'm into growing alpines as well.
All right.
Another one of my interests.
That was quite an experience. Going back to the fishing now. So how did it all start for you then?
Well, I mean, I brought up in the valleys, in the Sarawi Valley. The Sarawi was black. Well, we didn't even know it was called the Sarawi when we were kids. It was just a black river, wasn't it? As far as we were concerned, it was fishless. So we used to cycle out to Usk, and we'd see the river Usk, and we thought that was, well, beyond description. A river big enough you couldn't throw a stone across, and you could actually see the bottom.
Yeah.
And but then I spent a lot of time on a couple of farms. I had a good friend, John Morris, John the Dufferin. You know where the Astromynach Hospital is now?
No, I know Astromynach. Oh, yes, I do, yeah.
The new hospital in Astromynach it's called the Dufferin Industrial Estate.
Yeah.
Well, that was my mate's farm, Dufferin Farm. Right. And it went on the banks of the Rumney River. And the Rumney was, Bible black is a description. Yeah. You couldn't see half an inch into it, with the coal washing. But there were bloody fish in there.
Yeah.
Lots of them. And I was down there one night. I saw a little dimple on the surface of the water. And these trout were taking insects, being blown onto the river. And I thought, God blimey, I wonder. And so I think I caught an insect, tied it onto a little hook. Because I started fly fishing now. I was worm fishing long before that.
Right.
Anyway, I tied a fly on this hook, and lo and behold, this blinking fish came up and took it, and that was it. So I had to start fly fishing then. So the farmer, he had about a mile of the river, I expect. It was the only private fisher I ever had. He's the only one who let fish there. So the only private fisher I've ever had or ever will have, But these fish, you could catch them on dry fly, you see.
Yeah.
You couldn't see the fish. The water was too black. But they must have been just an inch below the surface, looking upwards, and they could see the silhouette of the bright sky, and anything come down, they'd take. And I used to catch a lot of fish on little dry flies. What flies I used, I have no idea, but I don't think they were fussy. But that's where I started fishing on the Rumney, when it was as black could be,
Did you ever go into the Stillwater, the trout fisheries scene, or did you just go straight into the wild, the hill lake?
Well, I was with this fine anglers for several years, and I negotiated Pantarios Reservoir for the club, which is now defunct now, and we stocked it with rainbows. And for a few years, I did a bit of rainbow bashing down there, quite successfully, but I got bored with it. And to be honest now, I am not interested in rainbow fishing at all. I just don't want to catch stockfish. I've just lost interest.
Yeah.
And then I started, I was trying to think when I started fishing up in the lakes of Mid Wales, because you've got to go to Mid Wales to get wild browns. And I remember parking a car at Clydwen Dam, and it's about a 2-hour hike then across the moors to get to Gunnan. What I would do, you walk parallel to Clydwen, cross over to Gunnan through the bogs, it's an awful walk. And then to get back to the car, I dropped down to Clydwen and fished the banks of Clydwen back. But I was on my way across. I could hear some gunfire. I thought, what the hell is that? And then next thing, no, this is true now. Next thing, a big helicopter came over, hovered above ground, and all these soldier boys jumped out the helicopter. I thought, what the hell was going on? And what it was the year of the Falklands War.
Training.
And they were training to invade the Falklands.
Yeah.
And that was 1982.
Yeah.
The Falklands War. So I was fishing those lakes by the late 70s.
And then you were telling me as well this morning then, because there's so many wild lakes and waters in Wales which I haven't fished. And you were saying you've got to go to mid-Wales to get wild brown trout fishing. I've always thought that. But I tell you what, there's a friend of mine, for years he said, you want to come and fish our water, he said. It's called Ystrafellda. Chris Bond, his name is, right? And it's not stocked,
right.
All wild, and I expected it to be, I'll come, it'll be like 8-ounce fish. But you know what? It blew me away. And I'm gonna join it this season.
That's Aberdare, is it? Anglers?
Mountain Ash.
Mountain Ash, that's
yeah, they got Penderyn Reservoir with it's a rainbow water, and they've got a clubhouse there.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic run club.
When I used to fish, I mean, if you go back 40 years, right?
Yeah.
The average fish on these mountain lakes, it was like 3 or 4 to the pound, okay?
Yeah.
And if you caught a pounder, that was a monster, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the last couple of years, we Ceri and I are catching £1.5, £2 fish. We're catching pound fish with regularity.
Yeah.
And these are up on some of the mid Wales lakes are highly infertile, and I don't know why they're getting bigger. They're definitely getting bigger.
Yeah, they are.
And I got this book. You see, every person in Wales who's interested in fishing the mountain lakes should get hold of Frank Ward's The Lakes of Wales.
Right. I was going to ask you about this.
It's published in 1931. It'll cost you an arm and a leg to buy. It'll cost you about £100.
Is it?
Unless you can, yeah. Cochabondi books. Cheapest I've seen is 70.
Right, yeah.
I've got my copy's a bit dilapidated. Mark Roberts bought me mine because I helped his daughter with her GCSE coursework of maths.
Right.
So lo and behold, he bought it. And it's treasured. But he lists. He wasn't a fisherman, I don't believe, but he decided to do this book on the lakes of Wales, and it's brilliant. It's a thick book, and it covers about 500 lakes, written in 1931, and it gives you some of the legends of the lakes and the meanings of the words, translator. What a lot of what he said is absolutely true today. Like you said, this lake produces big fish, still true. This lake is full of stunted fish, still true. I mean, there's one lake up in Rhenog called Llyn Hywel. You've got 3 spectacular mountain lakes in Wales. You've got Llyn Idwal, which is well known. Llyn Cai and the Cadair Idris, that's got fishing, and so is Idwal. And Llyn Hywel in the Rhenogs. And I was looking. There's a book written by it was either Henry Cliff or Hansard.
Yeah.
And I think it was Henry Cliff. Mentions Cwm Hywel. This is about 1860 now, right? He mentions Llyn Hywel, and he said it's full of fish with monstrous heads.
Yeah.
Small fish with monstrous heads, right? And think, aye. You go up there, you catch a fish out of Llyn Hywel, and they're still skinny with monstrous heads and huge eyes.
Really?
Yeah. So in these books, a lot of what they said is still absolutely spot on. What's changed is the ownership. You say, this is private, it's owned by the Earl of this or, Major that. But what's happened, a lot of it's gone. They've just, these estates and that, they just lost interest in these in these upland lakes, you just fish them. Maybe you're not supposed to, but I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen, they'll tell you to clear off, won't they?
Yeah. I've always believed in a saying, sometimes it's easier to apologise than to ask for permission.
Yeah.
So I've done that one.
I've known that one. I like that.
Because everyone will say, oh, no, you can't do that. So a lot of people take it.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't do it. So just do it. You soon find out if you're able to or not.
What are they saying, Ireland? Fish away, boy.
Yeah. Well, I suppose your work in the past has been ideal for all your travels and your fishing, being as a teacher, with the holidays.
Yeah. But you create, you create your own opportunities. It's no good, oh, I will do it. You get off your backside and go.
Yeah.
If you don't make the effort, you'll end up doing nothing. I mean, I'm 73, and luckily I can still walk 10 miles. How much longer I can do it for, I don't know. But it's very easy at my age to get up in the morning and say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I won't. I have 2 dogs. I won't take the dogs up the mountain for a walk because I can walk from my house up the mountain.
Yeah.
But you say, oh, yes, you will. Oh, yes, you will. And you make yourself, It's so, as you get older, it's so easier to say, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow, or I can't be bothered today, No, go and do it, while you're able to do it. Yeah.
I suppose, are there any certain lakes which are renowned? Well, there's 1 or 2 which I know of spectacular hatches. You think, right, this year I've got to be here in May, or I've got to be there in June. Because I remember years ago, I went to Tivy Pools and I saw the most incredible hatch of Cochabondi.
Early June. Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the same now. It's been a few years since. And do you know what? When I was and it was so prolific, it didn't have to be an imitative pattern of a cork. Any dry hoppers, it was hoppers I was catching on. But when you bring in the trout in, then you were lifting them up with holding it with the belly, and you could feel the belly crunching with the beetles. Incredible.
Tivy Pools are good for it. Clyde Reservoir is brilliant for it, and Gunnan is the best of all. Gunnan is a big lake, but you can wade out a fair way. It's a completely natural lake. There's not a dam in it, and so the banks shoal off gradually, so you can wade out 5 or 6 yards, and on a good day, you think the wind is blowing, and it's blowing white horses on the water.
Yeah.
And it's all it is fish splashing. It's smashing into the... I remember once on Clyde when the wind was blowing. You want a breezy day for the cork.
Yes.
You want a nice, reasonably warm, sunnyish day with a nice breeze, warm breeze, and it blows them off the land onto because they're poor flyers, and it blows them onto the water and the coast. And when they land on the water, they just lie there, and the fish just swim around, mopping them up. But I remember being on Clyde one day, and the wind had blown them into this bay, and the cork were piled up, and I held my 2 hands together to make a scoop, and I scooped them out, and my 2 hands, like a cup, my 2 hands were full with corks. I must have been 500, 1,000 of them blinking, I don't know, but I was able to scoop up. I could have filled a pint beer glass with them easily.
Yeah.
Just the corks being blown in. So later on, you get the sedges, and sedgehogs work really well, and hoppers, and things like that. Daddy long legs later on the year as well.
Yeah, something which I found is good. A couple of the mountain lakes here where I fish, the flying ants. When the flying ants come on the water, and it's funny, you could be at home, and then you could be walking down the street, and you see them on the pavements starting to fly around, and I think, if you can, then jump in a car quick, get up to the lake, and then it can be fierce hard, mind. The best thing I find with flying ants, at the start of the hatch, you'll have fish, but after 20 minutes, half hour, you can forget it. They just like hoovers. Then they're on the top, but just sucking these flying ants, and you'll do well to catch them after that.
What do you find with the cork? The hatch lasts about 3 weeks-ish. Some years are better than the others, and they disappear. But the trout are tuned into them.
Yeah.
And then you'll find, if you still fish them as though there was a cork hatch, you'll carry on catching them for a few weeks after the trout have tuned into them, and they stay tuned into them. But a few weeks after the core catch is gone,
Have you got any goals this year? Any new waters you want to fish?
Yeah, I want to do. I've been collecting images of fish from different lakes of Wales.
Right.
You haven't seen my chart, have you?
No.
No, you haven't seen my trout chart.
Where do I see that?
I'll send you a copy of it.
All right.
I've got this 50 trout, each one from a different flin in Wales. And the difference in the coloration is amazing. And I think that's what fascinates me now. I'm going to these different flins to see what the fish are like. They vary according to the water. Some lakes are really silvery, hardly any spots on them. Other lakes are really dark with big red spots, and others they're buttery yellow, and it's amazing colorations in them, So I've got my eye on. I'd like to. I got 50 trout in it so far. I've caught trout for more than 50 lakes, but it's only 50 I've kept records of.
Yeah.
But,
so you're going to add to
I'm
it
hoping
this
to
year?
add to those. So I want to do more of the Snowdonia ones. I want to fish. There's a couple of lakes. There's Fun and Floor, I mentioned this morning. That is the highest fishable lake in Wales.
Right.
And nearby is Cumclwyd, which is, I think Fun and Floor is 2,225 feet above sea level, and Clwyd is 25 foot lower in Snowdonia, Cwmogwen. And you can get a ticket for Fun and Floor. You got Llyn Idwal, Llyn Bochroi, Fun and Floor, and Llyn Ogwen all on the same ticket. Whereas Clwyd, you've got to climb up the side of the mountain.
When you say get a ticket, then it's a club water, is it?
You can get them on the fishing passport as well.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, I've been to all of the lakes except Clwyd, but I've never actually fished them. I've only ever walked to them, walked past them. So I want to get some fish out of those if I can.
Yeah, one of the goals I want to do when I work for trout fish, every year I was thinking, right, I want to catch a personal goal now, the highest trout in Wales. And I never got around to do it. Maybe we should go up, experience it together now this year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I enjoy company. I'm happy to go on my own. I'm also happy to have company. That we would have done it this year, but the lockdown came back in and put pay to everything. So the Cambrian Angling Club, around Blaenfestiniog, that's got some tremendous lakes, and the fishing there is available on day tickets. They're great fishing too, and the Aberystwyth lakes are very good. They're a bit expensive actually. They charge, I think it's £22.50 a day now.
Is it stocked though? I think some of them are stocked though.
Some are stocked. Some are stocked. Yeah, most of them are stocked. The Ross Reed is cracking fishery, that is. And there's fish there at £5. And it's
wild.
And just below it you've got another. No, they do stock it, but there's a lot of them are grown on wild as well. It's a mixture of wild and it's a very fertile water. A lot of reeds in there, and you get the great sedges coming off. Brilliant fishing.
Yeah, I remember fishing the Aberystwyth waters years ago because they've actually got the Rydal as well, haven't they, the river?
Yeah.
But I hope to experience the new waters this year, and I do like my wild fishing. I'm gonna join Ystrefyllda this year because they've got a boat there as well, just for members. So
I joined Merthyr, and I only pay £40 because I'm a pensioner, and I joined Merthyr just for Talabont.
They haven't got a boat on Talabont, though, have they? Shame, really.
No, you don't need a boat on Talabont, mate.
Yeah. Do you fish the far side or just the road side?
I fish the far side. When the reservoir drops, it's a lot of it's tree lined on the far side.
Yeah.
But when the reservoir drops about 10 foot, which it usually does, you can fish all the far side. And there's a couple of bays over there. That's on the far side. I had those, I reckon about 50 trout in an evening.
Wow.
Catching two at a time, about 10 ounces. To average size, something like that. They used to electrofish. If you remember, whatever they were called then, the Environment Agency or Natural Resources Wales, I think it was the Environment Agency then, before the NRW was formed. They had that policy with stocking. You could only stock in South Wales with that strain fish. So you had to buy a strain brown trout to stock waters in South Wales
Right.
on the ice. And so they used to raise them in Cynrig, the hatchery at Cynrig. And so they used to electrofish the river that comes in to Talabont in the autumn. And they used to get 20 trout, 4 or 5 pounds, to strip them for the milk and the eggs.
Was there?
I know the broad. Yeah, that's where they got their brood stock from.
That's one of my goals this year, is to get a 2 pound plus fish. I'd like to let it get something bigger, but I think a 2 pound fish from Talabont this year, I'll be pleased with that.
Go in the evening.
Yeah, or a dirty day with a big wind.
Evening. Dirty day with a big wind. Cast and walk as you go along. See if there's swallows on the water, and there'll be sedges or something coming off.
Yeah.
But early in the year, go up the shallow end. Don't you can wade out, but don't wade out too far and fish the skinny water. Fish all around you. Don't try and cast out to the horizon. I mean, I rarely false cast up on the lakes. I just lift, roll cast, walk, lift, roll cast, and you cover the fish. And it's there's no effort in it. Your shoulder's not doing anything. You just lift, roll, cast, lift. Use a 40 plus. When these weight forward lines are very, very heavily weighted towards the head end, and then I use about a 20-foot leader, really long leader, twice the length of my rod. Cast out, roll cast, and I retrieve it, then the length of the leader.
Yeah.
So the flies are not covering water that my fly line has been on. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So they cover in undisturbed water. Lift, cast. Oh, I'll go 4 or 5 miles some days. Clydwen. I've actually one day I walked all the way around Clydwen, and I think that's about 14 miles.
You didn't fish that?
You don't fish it,
No.
No. What? You read lakes. You can read a river, can't you? Smallish river. Like the Ebu or the Rum or even the Upper Taff. You can read it. If the fish are rising, you can say, there'll be a fish there, or there'll be a fish there. It's rivercraft, isn't it? It's exactly the same on the upland lakes. You look for features, you look for bays, and you know where the fish are. Because as you say, brown trout are territorial. Getting people to cast and walk who are used to rainbow fishing, it's a devil of a job. They go to a place and they stay there. No, you gotta cast and walk. And you know when you're going to get a fish. You know exactly where you're going to get a fish.
What I found as well on days where you got a nice breeze and you walk in the bank, if it's overcast, you get free rising fish and you'll get fish. But then sometimes on those blustery days where the sun, you walk in having a fish or two, and then the sun comes out, and then I stop walking then, because if I keep walking, I'm passing fish. The fish are there, but they won't take because of the sun. So I wait until the cloud comes over, then I'll start to walk again. So you're not missing opportunities.
And I don't like the fish where the fish are looking into the sun. The sun's got to be behind the fish.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm sure they're dazzled. And I wonder sometimes, as you say, when the sun comes out, they seem to top taken. Is it they lose interest, or is it they just can't see the bloody fly?
Yeah, quite probably.
They dazzle. I don't know.
There's one water as well, which I haven't fished, and it's reasonably localish to me, is cray. Have you fished cray?
Cray is a good fishery. Yeah. A mate of mine fishes cray regular. I don't like it as much as Talabon. Talabont's got a huge area at the shallow end, big area, several acres. Maybe 10, 15 acres of shallow water.
Yes. Where
the fish come in at night or early season where they're browsing in the day. Whereas cray, the inlet comes in, it's quite abrupt and is only a very small area.
Is it?
So you haven't got the variety at cray that you have in Talabont. And Talabont fish are a bit bigger from what I can gather.
Right.
I've only ever fished cray a few times. I got a good friend who fishes it regularly, and he likes it.
Yeah.
But I don't find it as interesting as Talabont.
One thing I want to touch on as well is your other passion and love. I heard it in your voice this morning when you were talking about hoy.
Oh, yeah.
How often do you go up there?
I used to go up almost every year when my kids were little. I knew a farmer up there. He had a farm called the Boo, B-U. Old Viking house it is, amazing. And he had a upbuilding. He sort of converted into a rough and ready bothy. And he used to let us, we used to go up there. I always found out about him. God only knows. But Terry Thompson, his name is. We started going up every summer. It's a long old drive, mate. 13 hours drive. You have to take a ferry across to the mainland of Orkney. You have to drive across Orkney and then take another ferry then to cross onto the island of Hoy. The farm is right above a beach called the Bay of Creekland. It's a beach about the size of Barry Island Beach, I expect. I was up there for a month one year and I never saw a single person on the beach in a month.
Wow.
And when the tide goes out, the tide used to, it's an inlet, a Scapa flow it is. You had Grahamsay Island, 200 yards across from where we stayed, and the tide used to race through like a huge river. And the sea trout would come in and cruise the edge of it. And I used to fly fish for them there. Crystal clear water. And out in the middle, there were some skerries. And years ago, there probably were a couple of hundred grey seals on there at low water.
Yeah.
They'd nesting on there. And you'd lay in bed at night, because the farm was right on the beach, and you could hear the seals mewing at night all through the night. It's like cats. And but the old adage, the seal comes along, don't bother fish.
Yeah.
I took John Galvin, the chap I mentioned. I was up there when he was up there with Vaughan, and we fly fishing for the sea trout. And these skerries, a couple hundred yards offshore, and the seals, being curious thing, they come in to look at you.
Right.
And John said to me, he said, Parf, he said, everyone calls me Parf, by the way. He said, Parf, he said, how many seals can you count there in front of us, watching us? 38, I said. He said, I can count 40. And we were fishing, and they were no more than 25, 30 yards from us, and we were catching sea trout.
The sea trout weren't bothered?
The sea trout were not bothered at all. It's a load of, excuse my language, a load of bollocks to see if you see a seal. The seal's there because the fish are there.
So these sea trout, were the rivers, I don't know, is Hoy a big island? How big is Hoy then? Is there many people living there?
It's a fairly big island, but it's quite narrow. But there's no rivers. All it's got is a couple of little burns, little brooks.
So where do these sea trout go in then?
They spawn in the brooks.
Oh, right.
And apparently they find they smolt a year quicker. These sea trout run up the brook, spawn, come straight back into the sea, and they feed inshore. And you'll see them dimpling on the surface like trout in a river at times.
And what time of year would that be?
Amazing. Well, the season starts in February and it goes through till October. And they reckon the best time is in March. I've been up there at Easter. The three of us went up at Easter one time. We had snow and everything. But
be bleak up there in March, wouldn't it?
It was bleak up there. So I've always gone in the summer holidays, when schools are closed, which is not supposed to be the best time to go. But I took my wife, we went up year before last, just the two of us.
Yeah.
I know a lady whose mother left her a croft on the west side of Hoy, and I'll send you some pictures. And she had it done. She just rented it to people she knows, and we were due to go up this September, just gone. But she called it off because of COVID.
Are there any bars up there?
There's no pubs on it. Wow. Only a couple hundred people live on the whole island.
So how would you fish for these sea trout then? You're fly fishing. What sort of methods would you be fishing for them?
Like you fish a loch.
Exactly the same.
Yeah. There's a bloke who lives right on Donald McIsaac. His wife owns a cottage. He fishes. He can step out of his front gate, cross a single track road, step down the bank, and he's on the beach.
Wow. It's
best he's ever had, he said, on a fly is £11. Biggest I've had two around £6 on the fly.
So is it beach or is it rocky or what? How would you?
A beach. And then as the tide comes in, the tide runs along, because I said there's this tide race between Hoy and the mainland. And so it goes through it quite a fast lick. And the sea is so clear. It's ridiculously clear. You know, You see, it's so easy to overstep your waders, because the water is so clear. You think it's about 3 foot deep, and it's about 5 foot deep. The fish work the edge of the tide. They work the edge of in a foot or so of water, and you intercept them as they come past. The average about £1.5, £2. You know, you talk about silverfish in Towie or something, and I've caught silverfish on the Towie and salmon on the Usk. They're nothing compared to the fish actually out of the briny itself. You know, because these are not estuarine fish. These are full blown. It's the best fishing I've done anywhere, as far as I'm concerned. Swap it for anything.
Well,
you'd love it.
I would. I'd like that remoteness sound of it, you know, 2 ferries to get there and a beach to yourself. That's my sort of, I don't care if there's no mobile phone signal even.
There is actually where we stay.
We can always put it off.
Yeah, where we stay, it's on a beach called Rackwick. I'll send you some photos. I think it's the most tremendous beach in the world. Huge sandstone cliffs, about 600 foot high, red sandstone.
Any photographs you've got,
yeah,
I'll put them on the story notes on the website so you can see everything we're talking about. We put some pictures.
Because the Old Man of Hoy is just round the corner from where we stay.
Is it?
And
you haven't climbed on top of it?
No, I've been opposite loads of times. You know. I fly fish for coalfish as well. Where I fish for the sea trout, you get a big shoal of coalfish, about £1.5, £2. They come in and they a bit like a mackerel down in Pembrokeshire. You know, they come in and sweep around, you know, swim back out and then come back around again a little while later.
Is it?
And they are good fun on the fly. They fight like bloody big buggery, they do.
Yeah.
I actually caught a cod in Orkney on a fly, sea trout fishing. Yeah, they're £1.5.
Oh, wow.
I ate him. I put the sea trout back, but I ate the cod.
Well, there's lots more we can talk about. We've spoken over an hour already, and there's other few things I wanted to touch on as well, because I know you got an addiction for the bass as well. I know you spent, is it like 20 years? You go back and forth to Canada and...
Oh, I could talk for hours on Canada. Yeah. The bears and the tornadoes. And
we'll have to keep that for another podcast.
Any use to you, Ceri, I'm more than happy to help. That's my attitude.
Well, I've got one more question to ask you. And I think you know where this is going to be. And I got a feeling I know what the answer is going to be. Where would you want to be to make your last cast?
Well, it'd be with Vaughan Thomas up on the tide race on Hoy. It's something else. It's something I can't explain it. If you were there, you'd know exactly what I mean. Paradise on earth, as far as I'm concerned. So there we are. Well, I hope it's of some use to you.
It's been brilliant. I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting.
I tend to rabbit on a bit.
We'll definitely catch up now in a couple of weeks' time.
Okay, no problem.
I shall speak to you soon.
Okay, now.
Take care, Alan. Bye now. If this is your first time tuning in, make sure you catch all future episodes by clicking subscribe via the links on my website, castingwithkerryjones.com. or via iTunes or your favourite podcatcher. If you like what you've heard on this episode, feel free to drop me a line via my website. Tell me what you've enjoyed, ask a question, or better yet, tell me what you want to hear more of in the future. And if you're looking for additional tips, tackle reviews or venue information, or just want to see what's been hit in the back of my net lately, search up Casting with Kerry Jones on Facebook or follow me on Instagram. And if you still want more, I'm regularly uploading video content onto the Casting with Kerry Jones YouTube channel, so just check that out and subscribe over there too. Wherever you follow, subscribe, comment or message, I look forward to catching up soon for a good fishing chat. Well, I think that's all for now, so until next time, tight lines and don't strike too soon.